All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to untangle a really complex web of global events. We're talking about a story where, these secret diplomatic whispers can literally shake global markets. And where the most powerful political commentary? It might just be an AI-generated meme. So yeah, let's get into it.
So let's think about this for a second. How does some unconfirmed whisper, a rumor between diplomats, actually affect the price you pay at the pump? And where in the world does artificial intelligence fit into all of this? It sounds kind of crazy, right? Well, we're about to connect some very surprising dots and figure out what's really going on.
Okay, so our story really kicks off behind the scenes. We're talking about the world of shadow diplomacy, these unconfirmed reports and maneuvers. This is where countries often kind of test the waters before they make anything official.
And to really get what's happening, we first have to wrap our heads around this key concept: back-channel communications. Basically, think of it like the diplomatic version of a quiet, off-the-record chat. It's happening away from the public eye, outside of all the formal negotiations, just to see what might be possible. This is the space where our entire story is unfolding.
Okay, so what we're hearing from multiple international media outlets is that there are signs of these exact kinds of back-channel talks between the US and Iran. The supposed goal? To de-escalate tensions in the region. But, and this is so important, the key word here is reported. None of this is confirmed. At this point, it is all speculation.
All right, so let's look at the key players involved. Let's put some names and faces to these rumors and see who's supposedly at the center of this diplomatic chessboard. And this is where that gap between what the media is reporting and what's officially being said becomes, well, crystal clear.
So check this out. This table really lays out the stark difference between all the speculation and the official stances. You've got the US and Iran, who are reportedly talking, but both are saying, nope, no official agreements here. And then you have Pakistan, which is rumored to be acting as a kind of bridge between them. But that role, it's completely unconfirmed. In fact, the White House has even denied reports of senior officials making visits.
So let's just be super clear on this crucial point. While this idea of Pakistan playing the role of mediator is a really persistent story in the media, it's still just that, a report. It's not a confirmed diplomatic fact. And that distinction, it's absolutely everything.
But here's the thing. Even unconfirmed rumors can have very, very real consequences. This diplomatic uncertainty is already sending tremors across the region's politics and, of course, the global economy.
Take this, for example. Any hint of a third party getting involved in the region immediately brings up the incredibly sensitive issue of Kashmir. And India's position on this has always been firm, totally unwavering. It is strictly a bilateral issue between itself and Pakistan. No room for outside mediators, period.
You can also feel that tension in critical energy corridors. We're talking about the Strait of Hormuz, a huge channel for global oil. There's a lot more caution there right now. Shippers are nervous, some are even rerouting their shipments, and all of that just adds to the volatility in the energy markets.
And you can see that volatility reflected right here in the price. Global crude oil prices are hovering around $95 a barrel. A number like that isn't random, it's a direct indicator of all this geopolitical anxiety we've been talking about.
Now, on a more positive economic note for Pakistan, there has been some good news. Saudi Arabia has reportedly rolled over a $3 billion deposit. That is a pretty significant move, and it helps stabilize the country's external finances, especially with all this other uncertainty swirling around.
And staying in Pakistan for a moment, there's another bit of good news on the domestic front. The country's power shortfall has actually been reduced down to around 3,000 megawatts. This is thanks to better water flow from the dams. It might seem small, but it's an important improvement at a really tense time.
But, the bigger picture still has some flashing warning lights. Experts are cautioning that all these geopolitical tensions could end up disrupting something a lot of us take for granted: aviation fuel. And that just goes to show you how interconnected our world is, right? Instability in one region can directly impact flights in Asia and Europe.
But the fight for influence here, it isn't just happening in these quiet diplomatic rooms or on the oil markets. No, in a very modern twist, it's also being fought out in the open, online, and in a way you probably would not expect. So yeah, forget everything you know about traditional statecraft for a minute. We need to talk about how artificial intelligence is opening up a whole new front in international relations, one that plays out not in embassies, but right there on your social media feed.
So what's happened is this fascinating, and maybe a little unsettling, trend has popped up. Satirical AI-generated images of these very same world leaders. And they are spreading like wildfire online, completely bypassing traditional news outlets. Look, this isn't just harmless fun. It's a whole new form of digital political commentary. It's fast, it can be anonymous, and it's incredibly difficult to control.
And this really illustrates the new reality we're living in. This kind of digital content, especially these AI-driven memes, can totally bypass rational debate and just create these powerful emotional narratives. Think about it. They can simplify incredibly complex issues down to a single shareable image and shape public opinion before official statements even have a chance to get out the door.
Okay, so we've looked at covert diplomacy, economic fallout, and viral AI memes. After all that, what are the big takeaways? What do we make of all these connected, yet for the most part unconfirmed pieces of information?
When you put it all together, 5 key themes really stand out. First, you've got the rising diplomatic pressure between the US and Iran. Second, there's Pakistan's potential but totally unconfirmed role. Third, the strategic sensitivity around the India-Pakistan relationship. Fourth, all the uncertainty in Middle East energy routes. And finally, the new wild card in the deck, the powerful influence of AI-generated digital media.
And this right here is probably the most crucial takeaway from this whole explainer. Almost everything we've talked about exists in this world of speculation, of media reports and diplomatic whispers. We're not talking about finalized agreements or confirmed facts here. That is so important to remember. And that leaves us with a final and honestly a pretty provocative thought. In a world where rumors, misinformation, and now AI-generated satire move at the speed of light, how do we actually know what's real? In this whole story, maybe the real question isn't just what's happening behind closed doors, but who is shaping the reality we're all seeing on our screens.